breeze through lies. 'Cause I know it all. Gotta fly so high. Get across the road. What a place.
As we look forward to a promising new season and new year of anime, what better way to get excited than to look back at what came before? 2017 was an awesome year for the medium as we were treated to a variety of highly anticipated sequels, refreshing original projects, and of course fantastic source material adaptations. It's a testament to the diversity seen this year because at least one of everything I just mentioned made it into my top 5. But of course, being as stacked a year as it was, there were many series I wasn't able to check out, either because they were sequel seasons that I hadn't seen the predecessor of, or simply because I didn't have the time. Suka Suka, Sengatsu no Lion Season 2, Girls Last Tour, Owari Monogatari Season 2, Kekai Sensen and Beyond, Eccentric Family Season 2, Mahoujin Guru Guru, and Rakugo Season 2 all fall under this umbrella, and I regret not being able to watch them this year as I feel any one of them had a chance of making it onto this list. It is what it is, however, and even with these omissions, I don't think that I had a shortage of great series to choose from. In fact, on that note, I would like to highlight a few of my honorable mentions for this year, shows that I really enjoyed but couldn't quite get into my top 5. Princess Principal offered us a ridiculously fresh and exciting look into the world of spies through the all-female cast of Team White Pigeon, keeping things consistently engaging through its episodic structure and the team's interactions with one another, as well as an unwavering commitment to fun and entertainment above all else, further cementing Studio 3 Hertz as a studio to look out for in the future. Boku no Hero Academia continued in its second season, doing what any good sequel should by upping the stakes and scale from its previous iteration, but still retaining the spirit and heart that drew people to the series in the first place, expanding much more on the personal conflicts and interactions of our characters, which in the end made it that much more interesting. I would also like to give some wholehearted film recommendations. My list is restricted to television series, but if we were including movies, these would rank highly among my favorites of this year. In This Corner of the World told the beautiful story of an average woman growing up and living during the events of World War II, deceptively using slice-of-life elements to elevate not only the characters, but the transition into more tragic and intense scenarios that you likely guessed would be in a story like this. It's obvious that the history was painstakingly researched and recreated in this movie, and it makes it all the more unsettling to sit down and actually watch it unfold. And despite watching it over a month ago, there are still scenes that resonate clearly in my mind. A Silent Voice explores the dynamic of a bully turned bullied kid, seeking atonement for his misdeeds as a child, as we follow him through high school as an outcast who wants nothing more than to die and ease the burden he feels he's caused for many in his life. Sound cheerful? Well, you'd be surprised, as the film balances that melancholy and depression with a profound sense of hope, seen through Shoya's quest for redemption and the friendships he forms. It's absolutely incredible, and despite the critical acclaim and hype tempering my expectations, it still became my favorite anime movie of all time. I apologize for the long-winded introduction, but I had to make a special note for all of my favorites this year. Without further ado, hello everybody, I am Phenom Sage, and these are my top 5 anime of 2017.
We gotta let it get back. Raise the wicked person. You know you had to kill her. Hold on tight, the hands and never faint and never forget.
Attack on Titan Season 1 left its mark on the world back in 2013, quickly becoming one of the most popular and mainstream anime series of all time. And as such, it was also quick to receive polarizing opinions. Some loved it, and some hated it. While I lean towards the former crowd, there's no denying it had issues and room to grow, both in its structure and its characters. Here lied an exceptionally rich world filled with intrigue and mystery, but it never really felt like the human element reached the same standard as their giant, naked, man-eating counterparts. Fast forward 4 years, after numerous promises of a continuation, and here we are. with Attack on Titan Season 2, which by all intents and purposes has made gigantic, dare I say titanic, leaps where its predecessor wavered. Many were disheartened to learn that the season would only be 12 episodes, in comparison to the first, which had more than double that. But ultimately, I think this decision only benefited the pacing of the story, making nearly every episode worthwhile and impactful, something the first season struggled in. What surprised me most, however, was that the first season's weakest link, the human element, actually ended up becoming my favorite aspect about Season 2. A number of characters that we had seen previously receive extensive development and arcs that were just as engaging as the high-octane action, if not more so, including and especially some of the twists and turns the narrative takes later on, which rank among my favorite anime moments of 2017. If you weren't a fan of the first season, I don't think it's a stretch to say that you might enjoy this season a lot more, simply because it feels different from anything they've explored before. As some of you may know, I'm not the biggest fan of the slice of life genre. By definition, they are slow burn stories that go nowhere and rely on the antics of their characters and the pleasantness of the atmosphere to bring viewers back week after week. There's nothing inherently wrong with this, but very often slice of lives just can't deliver on the character or atmosphere element, coming across more boring than anything to take comfort in. Which is why I'm happy to say that despite Dragon Maid having all the makings of a typical slice of life, I loved every second of it because it handled those elements well. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid follows the day-to-day life of our titular character Kobayashi and the dragons that she has not only formed bonds with, but has taken the responsibility of looking after, despite the isolated and lonely life she had led previously. Each episode, barring a few exceptions, is split into multiple sketches, much like Kyoto Animation's other series, Nichijou, complete with 4 coma-style skits to separate each main segment of the episode. This allows the pacing to remain brisk and engaging throughout its run, as there's always a new story arc or a comedic gag waiting around every corner. But the real brilliance is in how Dragon Maid interweaves character development and story progression into these seemingly random vignettes. Throughout the series, we slowly see a family form between these characters who were strangers to each other episodes back, and the creators bask in this, sometimes putting the comedy on the sideline and dedicating entire episodes to the tender relationships these people share. The focus on the warmth of family and friendship rings true during every episode. It was this combined with the quirky yet pleasant soundtrack and delightful art direction and animation that made Kobayashi the most infectiously joyful experience I've had in anime all year.
Traveling the ether back to you, to a land so far away. I feel the distance in between. A fragment of the
While there were bigger and more popular series that aired this year, none quite encapsulate and identify 2017 like Made in Abyss. The surprise hit that took everyone off their feet and dragged them into the engrossing and fantastical world of the Abyss. MIA, which could just as well stand for Missing in Action, stars our 2 protagonists, Rico and Reg, as they descend into a seemingly endless chasm filled with bizarre and dangerous creatures, but also containing the most wondrous treasures and relics the world has to offer. What stood out right from the onset is how palpable and fleshed out the world felt, despite spending so little time in it. And this can be attributed to the author, Akihiro Tsukushi's exceptional use of world building and indirect exposition, used to paint a wide array of locales with visible history and their own distinct nature and inhabitants. The starting town of Orth and its slums have more depth and creativity poured into them than most fictional worlds seen in other series. I would also be remiss not to mention the downright heavenly soundtrack accompanying our adventures with Rico and Reg. Composer Kevin Penkin has created a true masterpiece of an OST, and I don't think it's an overstatement to say that this production wouldn't even be half of what it is if not for his music. Whether it be the hopelessness and despair conveyed through forces beyond control, the whimsy and danger in Beni Kuchinawa, or somehow being able to communicate a dynamic tone of melancholy, yet joy and hope in my favorite anime track of the year, Tomorrow. Penkin delivers on every tone imaginable and has created something that will be remembered for years to come. And I had to spend this long talking about it as it's now among my favorite OSTs of all time. At its core, Made in Abyss is about love and desire. They are themes that are consistently explored throughout the series, both in the anime and later on in the manga. And it's here that we see the heart and soul of the adventure, and why so many people are drawn to this story. Reflecting Rico's desire onto the audience, we too want to reach the bottom of this abyss, no matter the cost. Skigakure flew under a lot of people's radars during the spring season, including mine. And in such a stacked season containing the likes of Boku no Hero Academia and Attack on Titan, it's clear as to why. Rather than conveying a grandiose tale of humans that can transform into flesh-eating giants, or a saga of what it means to have superpowers in a world filled with superpowers, the story of Skigakure is noticeably smaller and more personal, following two adolescents as they begin to connect with each other and date during middle school, and all of the consequences that come from that. The romance genre isn't anything new to anime, but TGK makes it feel fresh again, focusing on a demographic that isn't typically explored in the medium, and doing unique and interesting things with the storytelling as a result of that. Kotaro and Akane are just middle schoolers at the end of the day, meaning that they don't have the money or freedom that a character found in a typical high school shoujo would. It's the way that the narrative explores the relationship these two share, despite these inconveniences, and the joy and pain that they find in the smallest moments that make this story so heartfelt and relatable. With a slew of atypical characters, fantastic pacing, and an emphasis on the nuanced awkwardness that comes with being a kid in love, Skigakure delivers everything you could possibly want out of not just a romance series, but a coming-of-age story. If you followed my channel for the past 3 months or so, it should have been painfully obvious what my number one was going to be. Partly due to the fact that I've proclaimed this as my anime of the year for several weeks straight at this point. Hosoke no Kuni, or Land of the Lustrous, tells the story of a group of undying, genderless gems doing their best to live their lives day to day, but find themselves constantly under attack by an alien force known as the Lunarians. While I'm sure many people will credit Hosoke as being the most underrated or underappreciated series this year, and that it's a lot better than most initially gave it credit for, I'm going to lay down that on top of all that, it is far and away the best series that I've had the pleasure of watching this year. This has been the easiest number one choice for me to make in quite some time. Practically everything this show sets out to do, it accomplishes with flying colors, telling one of the most unique and structurally interesting shows of the past few years. Our main character Foz begins hopeless, naive, and ignorant, eager to prove themselves and show that they're worth something, but also quick to toss the responsibility on someone else when the going gets rough. This is the aspect in which Hosuki excels the most, showing our characters starting in one place and by the end having them somewhere completely different. And not just foes, but a plethora of the main cast as well. Their personality, their interactions with others. The development as a whole is beautifully handled and showcases one of the most satisfying and emotionally gripping character transformations I've ever seen. However, the focal point many will be using for this series and its appeal is its incredible use of CG animation. And it's hard to fault them when what initially turned people away from the series quickly became one of its main benefactors, demonstrating masterful use of camera work and action choreography, but never skimping on lively character expressions and body language. The best thing you can say about the CG is that it feels like a stylistic decision versus one made out of budget constraints, as seen by the fact that they already had animators hand draw some of these sequences of key animation just for the 3D team to have something more concrete to work with than a simple storyboard. I could go on and on about all of the things that Hosuki does right. Its brilliant vocal talent featuring some of Tomoyo Kurosawa's best and most dynamic work to date, the direction and use of music, swells and cues coming in at just the right moments for maximum impact, always matching the scene's tone beat for beat, or the excellent balance and integration of comedy, rivaling some of the funniest shows I've seen all year. Which is all the more impressive considering this is not a happy or lighthearted series by any means. At this point, H&K has garnered a cult following, and many more have expressed and described its beauty far better than I could. But I hope after listening to this that you realize how much this series has to offer, and decide to give it a shot for yourself, because it is my favorite anime of 2017. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed this top 5 list. 2017 was a fantastic year for me, not just with anime but in general. My channel has really grown and I've talked and made friends with a lot of you in the comments. I can't thank you guys enough for all of the support you've shown me and the reviews I do. We reached 2,000 subscribers before the new year, which has just made me even more excited to put out more videos and try my hardest for all of you. If you have an interest in seeing me do more elaborate reviews for any of the series I mentioned here, or of course any other recommendations, feel free to tell me in the comments. I actually mentioned that I was writing a full series review a while back in one of my videos. That was for Skigakure. A decent chunk of the review is written, so I might go back and complete it, but I'm currently trying to work on other projects as well, so we'll see about that in the future. Again, thank you all for the likes, comments, just everything in general that you guys give to me. I wouldn't have the motivation to keep making these videos if it wasn't for you. And of course, as usual, have a good day, and have a great 2018.